Told you that we have some waterproofing going on. I haven't really looked at it. Let's go take a look and see what they're up to. So this is on the way to my studio. My studio is just a few feet that way. Right next door to it, this little gate, which had a space for water to run out. This is one of the spaces that they're digging in. Let's take a look. You can see we have a big hole here. They are digging and removing roots. We've gone down about 4 feet now. You can see they've cut through the foundation right here. They sawed through that all the way down, and they have been digging big ditch right along here. This wall right here is my studio. So that wall is where my studio is, and all this work is happening right next to it. I really have no idea what we're looking at here, but tomorrow I'm going to get some answers from Alpha Structural. We're going to talk to them and they're going to explain some of what they're doing here so that we all have a better understanding of what this waterproofing entails. This is my studio right here. So those are the stairs that I come down. Let's see what's going on in my studio. Back this way. And this is where another space where they're digging and doing all the waterproofing. Water is sinking down from the walls, getting under the house, and this is what we're trying to correct. We're correcting both the subterranean water and also the surface water, which will all be explained to us tomorrow. So that's why we have everything covered up here in the basement. And I'm really not going to be accessing anything down here until all this work is done. And we know that it's not going to be flooding in here. Eventually, we are going to put in a pretty new floor, so we won't be having just a concrete floor. And we'll put up some shelves and some closets, and eventually we'll put a staircase in, and it's all going to be quite a journey. But first, we're getting the waterproofing done. Now let's talk to Mark at Alpha Structural.
And we're a structural repair company. We fix buildings that are having foundation problems. Waterproofing would be one of the things with foundations because, you know, when they leak and you have a floor on a hillside that's dug into the ground, it has to be waterproof. Otherwise, the moisture will come through the hills into the house. And that's what we're here to do on your property, is to waterproof it. And there's certain techniques for it. We kind of joke about Southern California. It never rains in Southern California. It's not true.
We do get rain here.
Yeah, and so not a lot of people are very familiar with waterproofing, believe it or not, and how to do it so it doesn't leak in next year.
Yeah.
After you spend the money on it. So,
because it's not inexpensive. It's an expensive thing, but your house is your most expensive thing that you'll ever own, so you want it to be safe and secure.
That's absolutely right. Now, with us, we don't want to do it a second time. So we're going to use the best products and do the best quality control on it to ensure that it does work and it, you know, provides a good product for you and obviously a good word for us as well, doing a good job.
Absolutely.
Which is what we want, yeah.
So what is it we are doing here today?
Well, key thing is we have a section of the house that's dug up into the hillside because, I mean, you can probably see, you know, we're in the hills.
We're in the hills, and it's right up against the hill.
That's right. So you have this one floor that's below grade, and when it's below grade, you've got the room wall, you've got the floor, and the dirt is up this high, and it's sloping downhill. And so water wants to come downhill. Water gets in the ground too, and you have subsurface water that's maybe 4 or 5 feet, even more, in many cases, below grade, and that's the water you don't even see. Comes up against this wall and just sits there, and it'll percolate through. And it's inevitable over time And this house is what year?
It's
like 60s?
1959.
59,
Yeah.
okay. So, you know, basically in the 59 on, it's amazing. There wasn't very many good products used. And then because of Southern California, not a lot of attention was put on waterproofing. And so anything literally has biodegraded. That if there was anything there in the first place, it's long gone now. And so we dig it up. Process is you're going to excavate. Behind this wall, we're going to excavate behind it to fully expose it. It's interesting, you have to waterproof it on the side that the water is coming from. It'd be really convenient and nice to be able to do it inside the house. Doesn't work that way.
Doesn't work that way. You got to stop it from coming in.
Yeah, exactly.
Not mop it up once it's in.
That's exactly right. And so there's a lot of products that get sold in paint surfaces to try to do that. And I've literally seen houses with little water balloons all over on the inside. So you catch it from the outside. Then waterproofing is a two-part process. There's waterproofing and then drainage. We call it subdrains.
Yes.
Because once you've stopped the water from going through the wall, it has to go somewhere. And that just provides it a nice exit point. So that's what we've done.
Nice place to go.
Yeah, exact. It's actually very simple. We use kind of a several part process. You've got to dig it up, excavate. If this is the floor level, and here's the wall we're trying to protect, we have to be well below the floor level. You can't go to the floor level. You can't be above the floor level. You've got to be well below it where the subdrain is. That way it's waterproofed. No chance water is going to come up. Instead, it's going to come out.
Perfect.
The pathway we give it. So we're going to clean the walls, surfaces. We're going to coat them with a couple coats of a polyurethane sealant. It's not asphalt, it's not tar. It dries. That's what we used decades ago. Dries out.
We don't do that anymore.
No. So this stuff is really good. It's a black, really nasty stuff that sticks well. It's very thick, rubbery kind of compound. In front of that, then we protect it with what's called a sheet drain, which is a polyethylene material shaped like an egg crate, kind of like, creates a gap. And it has a filter cloth on it, subdrain at the bottom. So the dirt, as it gets compacted back up to the surface, the waterproofing membrane behind the sheet drain is actually protected. It's protected by the sheet drain, which allows moisture to penetrate this filter cloth, travel down this kind of honeycombed egg crate material down into the subdrain, just falls into the subdrain. So it never really is even sitting against your waterproofing material.
Good.
So you kind of have like two different safety valves here in a way. And that makes it last for decades upon decades. The products are so much better. Once it plummets down to the bottom, it goes on out. There's also something called hydrostatic pressure. Have you heard of that term?
I've heard of it, but I don't know what it means.
Well, hydra's water. And it's, the simplest scenario is you go in the swimming pool and you swim down deep into the deep end. You have pressure.
Yes.
Same thing happens in the earth. And when it happens in the earth, it's just sitting there pushing against the wall. So if it's 10 feet down, there's a lot of pressure. And the water coming down in the soil, hydrostatic pressure, it's going to find its way through whatever kind of membrane that got put there to waterproof it. Heaven forbid there's not any, and it's just concrete, because concrete itself is somewhat porous. So this hydrostatic pressure, just like being deep in the water, is just sitting there pushing against your waterproofing or lack of waterproofing, finding a way eventually through, and it always does. So it maybe take years, hopefully many years, but the idea of the sheet drain just allows it to come across. There is that hydrostatic pressure is gone now. It just falls to the bottom, goes out our subdrain, which is gravel in a pipe. And then it goes out in a convenient passive way out. So there's never any of this pressure sitting on your wall. So that's why it works so well. And if done properly, it works great. Problems people have sometimes is they'll hit an obstacle on this subdrain. And they have to rise up above the floor and back down. Now you know what's happening now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's going to create a dam of water behind it.
Yep.
Perhaps higher than the floor. So you have to remove whatever's in the way. It's a pretty simple process. It is physical in the sense that sometimes very awkward to get to.
Yes, I've noticed that the guys that you have working have to get in some really awkward positions.
Yeah, they do.
Yes.
Well, but that's our job and that's our business. So our guys are used to it. We're used to it. And then we can take a look and see what some of the process right now, which mainly done so far, is the excavating.
Well, let's go down and take a look.
All right, let's do it.
Okay. Okay. So now we are inside the crawl space.
Here at crawl space opening on this house here, and we have the concrete block walls on this side are only this tall. You can see the dirt hillside as it goes on up. Here we're down below, and here's the concrete block foundation. All this area was filled with dirt through here.
I remember.
Very dense soil, kind of a bedrock. We call it a bedrock, although it's not necessarily rock, but very solid. And the floor level is down here where my feet are at, down here. In this trench, we've gone at least 12 inches below the floor. This is where the subdrain is going to be. Subdrain is gravel with a pipe. That gravel and the pipe allow water to penetrate the pipe, come into the pipe, and drain on out. So we're going to go through this wall and connect up to this other bigger wall. Here you see the white efflorescence. You see the white powder?
Yeah.
It's interesting. Concrete block walls actually don't like to be painted when moisture is present. It won't blister like it will when it's painted. When the concrete block walls have moisture in them, they get painted, that's when you get that blistering problem. It's better to let the concrete actually breathe. You can't do that inside the house necessarily. So here, that's where it's far more important to have the waterproofing. So all this trench is dug up, the material, the spoils are thrown up there because we're going to put it back in place. Over here against this wall and that wall there, we're going to have the polyurethane sealant will be liquid applied. It's like rolled on, troweled on. It's very thick. A couple layers of that go on in this area that waterproof the wall and the footing. We have to seal the footing up too. This is this part that bulges out. We have to clean it up a little bit, fill in the holes so that the waterproofing membrane is consistent. In front of that will go the sheet drain, which is this egg crate-like material, black stuff with a filter cloth that protects the waterproofing.
In this area.
It'll go from here straight down, over, and down into our trench, which will be filled with gravel and a pipe. We use what's called a perforated pipe. It's a pipe that has holes in it.
Yes, I've seen those. I've seen those at the...
At Home Depot or something like that. Exactly. Now that pipe is put in basically level. It can be level as long as it's below the floor. It can also have a little downward tilt to the out point where it exits. It's interesting, perforated pipe. The holes in the pipe go at the bottom, which many people don't realize.
Yes,
because we want the water to actually percolate into the pipe as fast as possible. Once in the pipe, it just has a nice clean thoroughfare to come out.
Okay.
That's the point of the pipe in the first place. You can actually do a subdrain without a pipe. It doesn't work as well. Gravel, it's very convoluted. The water wouldn't flow through it. That's why the pipe's so important. Another part of the process, though, is the putting the dirt back into place, okay, and compacting the soil, so that in itself it has its own dense layer.
Yes.
The whole idea of the subdrain here and the waterproofing is that if water does reappear, it won't go through the wall and it has a way to get out. A lot of work digging. This is a lot better than many places we get into, let me tell you.
Good.
I'm standing.
Good.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, you've got plenty of room to stand. Can you? Yeah. And you're a big guy.
Yeah. I'm thankful of this. And you can see down that way.
Yeah.
What we've got down there. There's your fireplace back there, that brick.
Oh, yeah.
The yellow, I think, was the height of the dirt. We're going to be waterproofing that high.
Okay.
It's just a yellow marker paint. And it wraps something around all the way around the other side, just like that.
Okay.
Another thing to be aware of is that the upper house side of the foundation, the hillside's continuing on up.
Yes.
A lot of people think that if they do the drainage up there on the other side, it would protect this area down here. And it's interesting, because of the height elevation difference, moisture will still come in from the earth below grade, well below grade at times, and still hit this wall, even though I have a drainage system up there. What you want to do up there is basically have a way to carry the water away as fast as possible. Surface drainage.
Yeah.
That's cheap, it's easy. You know, the theory water goes downhill, pretty simple.
Of course.
So we don't want it to pond up there. But to waterproof up there would not solve the problem down here. That's why it's very important the waterproofing is done where the problem is. Up here, on the other side, on the outside of the home, all we want to do is just provide a proper way for water to drain, runoff like downhill.
Of course.
You know, rain gutters, downspouts going into either a swale or across the sidewalk, but somehow they travel the water on down and out. In a way, one way to look at bad drainage is if you see water ponding outside,
Yes.
2-3 inches deep continually when it rains, that's bad.
That's bad.
It should go somewhere. It should flow somewhere downhill. As I mentioned, surface drainage is 95% of the water anyway. That's the surface rainwater coming off the roof,
Right.
off the rain, onto the ground. Whereas subdrainage water usually is fractionally not a lot of water. By the time it filters through the soil and it comes out, I mean, if you look at this soil, I mean, this is not like lightweight soil. This is pretty dense.
Yeah.
It's damp. I can feel it's damp. So very little water actually makes it down to this level typically. That's why the subdrainage is so important here. So we've given it a way to get out. Handling it up above is just simply don't allow it to pond and let it to flow somewhere, downhill preferably. The homes with the biggest problems usually are flat lots, totally flat lots. There's no downhill.
Yes.
So then we'll get into a situation where we have to use sump pumps,
Okay.
something of that nature, and pump the water out from a little well. You're not going to have to do that here.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
Hi, guys.
Hello.
We almost didn't buy this house. When we were going through the inspection process, we found out that we had drainage problems and we got scared and we almost pulled out. So we got estimates. We reached out to a number of different companies and we shopped it around and we heard some really different opinions. But we felt like Alpha really understood the problem, and you can see Mark really did an amazing job of explaining all the work that they're going to be doing. This is a lifetime investment. This is my forever home. I feel like I understand where every penny being spent is going, and I for one feel really good about that. I love you bunches. I hope you have an awesome rest of your day, and I will talk to you very soon.